Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The President of Ukraine and his wife are paying an official visit to Poland. Vladimir and Elena Zelensky met the Polish presidential couple before noon. President Andrzej Duda awarded Vladimir Zelensky the Order of the White Eagle. The Ukrainian president then met Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. President Andrzej Duda awarded Vladimir Zelensky the Order of the White Eagle. The main topics of conversation between the two leaders were security issues in the region and the risk of a new Russian offensive. We support Ukraine to join the EU as soon as possible. Also, we support the strengthening of transatlantic ties. Now, at the forthcoming NATO summit in Vilnius, which will be in the summer this year, we are trying to achieve additional security guarantees which will strengthen the Ukrainian military potential, which will also strengthen Ukrainians' feeling of security, but which will also be a very important support to the morale of the defenders of Ukraine. The one-on-one talks also touched on the issue of further support for Ukraine by the Western world. Poland is among the top 3 countries after the United States and the United Kingdom that provide the most military aid relative to their own GDP. The more relevant ammunition comes to Ukraine, the faster we will be able to overcome the situation, not only in Bakhmut, but throughout the territory of our country. We will not give up our land, our freedom, nor any child. President Vladimir Zelensky also met Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. Earlier, Zelensky laid flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier, in front of the monument to the late Polish President Lech Kaczynski, and in front of the Smolensk Memorial. When Russian tanks advanced on Ukraine, we launched humanitarian supplies and arms deliveries. When millions of Ukrainian women and children fled brutal Russian violence, we opened our gates, our homes. The top-level talks are part of negotiations on the shape of a new treaty between Poland and Ukraine, which will detail mutual relations. The last such document was signed in 1992. Today, the Polish economy, despite all sorts of challenges, is in very good shape. We would like Polish entrepreneurs to be able to cooperate with their Ukrainian partners in the future as well. Topics on historical dialogue and current topics related to the reconstruction of Ukraine were also discussed. The problem of excess grain imports from the country was also addressed. Arms contracts for Ukraine, but also about those issues concerning, for example, grain transfer rules. Helping Ukraine is in our interest and is our moral obligation. But of course, we must also take into account our domestic, internal contexts. The Polish and Ukrainian nations are linked by several centuries of mutual, often difficult relations. History has its positive elements as well as its negative, from the Cossack Wars to the Volhynian Massacre. On the other hand, interests are important, and Ukrainians have learned like never before what role Poland plays for maintaining their independence and subjectivity. That without Poland they will practically lose the war. They know that. Poland is now becoming a leader in Central and Eastern Europe in terms of creating security. Among other things, Poland has donated more than 300 tanks to Ukraine. Poland is the one who sets new standards in terms of arms deliveries. And first of all, Poland initiated the delivery of MiG-29 aircraft to Ukraine. Poland was first to help at the beginning of the war a year ago. Later, Poland announced the transfer of Patriot anti-aircraft systems. So far, Poland has handed over 8 MiG-29 aircraft to Ukraine. President Andrzej Duda declared that Poland is able to hand over 6 more aircraft in the near future. Earlier today, Russian President Vladimir Putin told new US and EU ambassadors in blunt language that their countries were responsible for a dramatic deterioration in relations since Russia sent its armed forces into Ukraine last year. The ambassadors were among 17 who formally presented their diplomatic credentials to Putin at a televised ceremony in the Kremlin. Putin told new EU ambassador Roland Galarag, who took up his position in September, that the European Union initiated a geopolitical confrontation with Russia. In his opening remarks, Putin said Russia was open to constructive partnership with every country and would not isolate itself despite the complex situation in the world. The current head of the European Union delegation here probably shares the opinion that relations between the bloc and Russia have deteriorated greatly in recent years, to our great regret. We see the reason for this in the fact that, leaving aside its main original mission and the function of developing economic cooperation and integration on the European continent, the EU initiated a geopolitical confrontation with Russia. Indeed, it initiated the confrontation with our country. But I would like to express the hope that all actions that damage our relations will remain in the past, and we will do everything to build them in the right direction, both for Russia and for the economies of the member states of this organization. Let me emphasize, Russia is open to constructive partnership with all countries without exception. We are not going to isolate ourselves from anyone. We have no biased and even more hostile intentions towards anyone. Putin also urged Denmark to support Russia's proposal to establish an independent international commission to investigate the blasts last September that ruptured the Nord Stream undersea pipelines bringing gas from Russia to Germany. Relations between Russia and the West were already badly strained before Russia began what it calls its special military operation in Ukraine, but have plunged even further since then. Russia says it was forced to intervene in Ukraine to stem Western influence that was becoming a threat to its security. The West in Kiev dismissed this as a baseless pretext for a war of conquest, and the West imposed a barrage of economic sanctions and began supplying Ukraine with advanced weaponry and other resources to counter Russia's forces. French President Emmanuel Macron landed in Beijing early today for a 3-day state visit to China, accompanied by a 50-strong business delegation composed of CEOs from the energy, transport and aviation sectors. It is Macron's first state visit to China in over 3 years.
Macron has said that during his 3-day visit, he is keen to stress to his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, whom he will meet alongside European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Thursday, April 6th, that Europe will not accept China providing arms to Russia. He also hopes to talk trade and economic ties with Chinese leaders. Macron invited von der Leyen on the trip as a way to project European unity, after French officials criticized German Chancellor Olaf Scholz for going solo to China late last year. Macron has pushed the European Union to be more robust in trade relations with China, the French president's advisors said, but he has publicly refrained from using strong anti-China rhetoric, with Beijing being prone to bilateral retaliatory measures. Since Macron's last visit in 2019, China's strict pandemic controls forced all diplomatic meetings online as relations with Europe soared, first due to a stalled investment pact in 2021, and then Beijing's refusal to condemn Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. Henry Giscard d'Estaing, CEO of French luxury resort chain Club Med and a member of the French business delegation, said the sheer number of French executives in the delegation shows the importance Macron attaches to solidifying economic and commercial ties with China, the world's second largest economy.
It's very good that there is an opportunity for the leaders and also the business community to resume physical dialogue, which is a key for the economic development. And I must say that the level of the delegation of business people coming with President Macron is the best signal of the willingness of the French economic community to develop and redevelop actively economic relations and business with China.
During the visit, Macron is scheduled to visit Guangzhou, capital of Guangdong Province, a major economic powerhouse in South China.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.